From Bruins for Liberty, people with Young Americans for Liberty here at UCLA, thank you for coming, Bruin Democrats, and Students for a Sensible Drug Policy. Today we're very pleased to welcome attorney Mr. Bruce Margolin. He has been a practicing attorney for over 40 years in successfully defending the rights of clients in all types of criminal cases, and specifically marijuana cases. As a candidate for the governor of the state of California in 2003, Mr. Margolin had a very strong showing. He currently serves as the chairman of the Ethics Committee for the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. Mr. Margolin is also the director of the Los Angeles chapter of NORML and the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. He has been awarded a certificate of appreciation by the ACLU, has received honors for his work on behalf of Constitutional Rights Foundation. We are very welcome to host Mr. Margolin, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you first for your very efficient and cordial invitation to me and making sure we followed up on everything. I thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I thank you guys for showing up, because I understand your organization is about freedom and liberty, and this issue that we're talking about today is exactly that. It's a question of people's choice regarding the use of marijuana. Arguably, it's a benign, relatively benign, and arguably society has no right to make that choice for others as to whether or not they want to use that substance, but for if they use it in a way that harms others or endangers others, obviously, then we should have that right to interfere with their decision. Today we're going to discuss, amongst other things, the initiative, because I think that's what instigated my invitation here today. As you well know, most of you know, I'm sure, that the initiative is on the ballot this year for legalization of marijuana in California. You all know that, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, it's called the Tax and Regulate Initiative. And it provides a number of things which I want to discuss with you and maybe throw out to you what you're thinking on the matter is, because it does have some give and have some takes about it. And we don't like to think about takes. Number one, we like to think about getting more rights, not infringing upon rights or interfering with our normal association with other members of our society. And this statute, this particular issue, will have some issues concerning that issue. I, of course, as a defense lawyer and the head of NORML, the National Organization for Reform of Marijuana Laws, as a director since 1973, love the idea that we're going to finally legalize marijuana. The term legal is going to come before marijuana after my work has been over 42 years defending marijuana cases and seeing the inequities of those people charged with marijuana offenses. And the fact is that they're putting them in prison and jails along with rapists and robbers and murderers, in my mind, seem to be draconian and outrageous and irrational. So, in my daily practice as a lawyer when I was 25 years old, I proposed to start an organization then at that time called CAMP, Campaign to Abolish the Marijuana Prohibition, and later on took on the hat of the director of the Los Angeles chapter of NORML, which is the National Organization for Marijuana Laws, which basically represents the consumer trying to defeat the illegal laws, these laws that are called illegality, and punish people by putting them in prison or jail. The initiative that's on the ballot is some notes here on that. Well, we talk about, I also brought with me today so that you can be a little more up to speed on the marijuana laws, because some people have different ideas about really what they are. I published and put out over 100,000 of these guides on marijuana laws. It's for state and federal laws inclusive, and it's online at 1-800-420-laws.com. You can download it, but it tells you basically everything about the marijuana laws currently: possession for sale, juveniles possession, sentencing guidelines for federal offenses, guidelines, medical marijuana laws, talking all about the details of medical marijuana laws, what they are currently today, the laws in all 50 states. It talks about the appellate landmark cases in medical marijuana laws, because so many people have chosen to go under the umbrella of the protection from medical marijuana, and so therefore they should be up to speed as to what that means and what the protections are and what the laws are. It also talks about the patient cooperatives and collectives that are authorized under Senate Bill 420, and what dispensaries are, how many plants a patient can grow or possess, what is a collective, and it goes on to explain all these different details and refers people to the statute, so if they have more information they want to get from it, they can look at the, just go online and look at the number and see what the statute says and you'll be up to speed. We have before us today an initiative called the Tax and Regulate Initiative, Marijuana Cannabis Tax and Regulate Cannabis Initiative, will be on the ballot this year. And it provides a number of things. How many people really know what it means, what the new statute calls for, the new initiative? Do you know what it is? Do you know what the particulars are?
Isn't it a $50 tax per ounce sold has to be over 21 regulated, much like alcohol, you can't be driving at the same time.
Okay. It calls for a number of different areas. Okay, first of all, it calls for legalization for possession and transportation up to 1 ounce for personal use by persons over 21. It calls for cultivation on private property. If you're the owner, you're the tenant, you're a resident, you're a guest, you can grow up to 25 square foot canopy. That means the top of the earth will be 25 square feet, 5 by 5, and that's legal for personal use. It also you can possess plants and possess marijuana for personal consumption. You can possess all the tools associated with that, obviously. And you also can, personal possession does not include possession for sale or consumption in public places, consumption by the operator of a vehicle, boat or aircraft, or smoking, or minors are present. Now, that happens to be one issue that I want to throw out to you guys before we finish here, because it creates a concern for many people, because right now there is no rule of law that says that you cannot use your medication, for example, as a medical marijuana patient in the presence of minors. And the term presence, I also question, what does that mean, presence? Does that mean your kid's in their bedroom sleeping and you're in the bathroom in your home? Does that mean you can't be using your herb? I don't know. So that's a kind of a problem in my mind as to how that's gonna flesh out. Makes me nervous, okay, especially as a defense lawyer, you know. We have many times people prosecuted these days by some more aggressive agencies where they propose to charge people that are growing weed, for example. Maybe they're growing a bunch of weed in their backyard, and they charge the parents, assuming that they were had kids at home, with endangering children. And the courts have consistently come down with a conclusion that, a good argument by the lawyers, that if you had oleanders in your backyard, you'd be just be more dangerous than marijuana, because you could die from a couple of oleanders, while here we can eat as much as you want and never die from that. So, but that's an example of the areas in which we get sometimes concerned, because, you know, we have unresolved laws. Typically, when it comes to marijuana laws and medical marijuana laws, you see in my book, you see a bunch of new cases that have come down. And what happens when you pass a law, many times they're very unspecified as to particulars. And you have to wait for the courts of appeals to make decisions on how they're going to apply the law to the facts of particular situations. So, for example, you have issues concerning profit when it comes to these collectors. What's profit, what's not profit? And you have examples of what a caregiver is and what is that caregiver, what's defined as when you're using the medical marijuana caregiver defense. And the courts have made rulings in those areas, and sometimes they make rulings that are kind of shocking to people that look at this the plain language of the statute and determine that their ruling is too restrictive. For example, the caregiver statute that says that persons that are caregivers can provide marijuana for their patients. The Court of Appeals held that the caregiver relationship has to exist before marijuana is provided to their patients, and caregivers must consistently assume responsibility for their patients, and the provision of marijuana alone does not constitute a caregiver. Many people thought otherwise. And then beyond that, they say it can't be for profit, you know, they can be reasonably reimbursed. Now, what does that mean? Now, they left that open because that's left